Hi there, my name is Jeff Neilson. I'm a geographer here at the University of Sydney in the School of Geosciences, and I'm the coordinator of the Environmental Studies major at the university. I'd just like to talk through now what's involved in the Environmental Studies major at the university and why we think it's a good major to do. Okay, so first of all, before I start off, I wanted to remind everyone that from 2019 onwards, all students coming into degrees including science, economics, commerce, vet science, pharmacy and engineering will all be required to have at least HSC mathematics of band 4 level, which is not the general maths, it's the one above that. It's a new requirement that we've introduced starting 2019, and that will affect those of you considering doing environmental studies as part of the science degree. So first of all, I guess I wanted to just highlight that for many of us, environmental challenges are the key concern for Australian society, for the global society looking ahead. Of course, we're all aware of the various predictions around human-induced climate change. And over the next 50, 60 years, we're going to increasingly we'll have to adapt to these changes. And of course, what we can do to try to minimise further warming than what we've already been locked into. Of course, climate change is going to affect a whole vast array of various ecological and natural processes moving ahead. And that includes, of course, another key concern, which is food security and the challenges that we face to feed a population that's rapidly heading towards 9 billion people. What sorts of agricultural systems will we need to do that? What sorts of social systems, probably just as importantly, to ensure distribution of food reaches those that are most hungry? Issues of waste management. We've certainly recently we've heard a lot about the war on waste, etc., the various challenges that we face in Australia to deal with our solid waste problems, and in fact the global trade in waste. So moving ahead towards a system to be sustainable, of course, we need to eventually move towards an attitude whereby waste is not a waste as such, but waste starts being thought about as a post-use product, and the opportunities that might be available to start mining waste in terms of an ore. Of course, various challenges in ensuring we all have adequate water supplies, that our atmospheres are clear enough, the air is clear enough for us to breathe. Sustainable energy, urbanisation, equity, loss of biodiversity. Perhaps I'm assuming most of you already be somewhat interested in these challenges, and so perhaps don't need to highlight how these challenges are likely to become more and more pertinent to society looking ahead. I guess as far as environmental studies goes, we're very much interested in how these challenges do interrelate with society. So as opposed to perhaps a study in environmental science, for example, which is more about the science of various environmental problems, environmental studies is very much about the interaction between human society and the environment. And as such, it draws on a range of various natural and social sciences. At the University of Sydney, it's very closely linked in with the discipline of geography, for example, which has a long tradition of trying to investigate problems at the human-environment interface. It involves various aspects of sustainability, of environmental management, impact assessment, law, ethics, global development challenges, economics and politics. And the major is designed, I guess, to address or to deliver two key outcomes to students. One is for environmental professionals, and we recognise that environmental managers need to have a broad knowledge base to be able to address environmental challenges, and that includes understanding of both social and physical natural systems. We also aim to create what we call environmentally aware citizens, such that our graduates can participate more fully in the democratic process and public life in Australia. Okay, so this environmental studies at Sydney is a major. It's a multidisciplinary major offered within the Faculty of Science, and so the vast majority of our students take up the major through a Bachelor of Science. which as of 2018 will require an ATAR of 80. But I also want to emphasise that the major itself can also be taken through various other degree programs, including the Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Liberal Studies, Bachelor of Economics, Bachelor of Commerce, International Global Studies, etc. So it's also one of the majors that's offered right across the university as well. The major is really designed as well to complement other majors. So most people that come through will do commerce and then do environmental studies in addition, or they might do chemistry with environmental studies. Many students see it as a way of value adding to to another major by generating knowledge that can be used in a more integrated way. Okay, so what does the major actually look like at Sydney? So in first year, you're required to do, in first semester, Earth, Environment and Society as a core unit, and then in second semester, Global Challenges, Food, Climate, Water. In addition, there are other units which we also suggest that those of you with particular interest in environmental studies should consider doing, and they're from across the disciplines of biology, economics and geography. In second year, the core unit for the major is Environment and Resource Management, which is held in second year, and then students need to choose one of three offerings in first semester. That's a GIS unit looking at natural hazards, environmental politics, or a unit in resource economics. Then in the third year of the degree, where you will need to take at least 4 units of study within environmental studies, and that sort of, again, just demonstrating the breadth of the field of study, environmental studies. It ranges from economics to field-based units, law, energy, environmental assessment, GIS. Now, I also did want to point out that the major is a popular major at Sydney. It's again that second year core unit has student numbers range between 100, 150 to 200 students, and again our 2 core third year units also are regularly in excess of 50 or 100 students. So it is a very popular major at the University of Sydney. And students taking up the major do have the opportunity to engage in various field school activities. I organise a field school unit to Southeast Asia, held each July, which is a great opportunity for students to put into practice in a project way the skills they've been learning through the campus-based units of study. Now, a lot of you I'm often asked, what are the career prospects like for those of you coming through with an environmental studies major. We look at the Commonwealth Government's Job Outlook website. They have a category for environmental scientists, which is the closest to environmental studies. And in general, job prospects are good. Unemployment is lower for environmental scientists than is for any other occupations. The hours worked are also lower, whilst the average earnings are higher compared to most other jobs. In terms of job growth, the employment for environmental studies has been fairly steady over the last 5 to 10 years, and in fact has even risen moderately over that period. And looking ahead, the government is predicting further growth within this field, which is quite distinct from any other fields of occupation where job prospects have gotten worse over the last decade. So where do a lot of these graduates work? The vast majority, work in professional, scientific and technical services for a range of employers from both the private and the public sector. A large number are also involved in public administration, working for the government, arts and recreation, mining and various other private sector employers. So in terms of specific where students have gone over the years, those working in government often have got jobs within the Office of Environment and Heritage, Department of Private Industries, as well as the Federal Department of the Environment, as well as working as environmental officers for various local councils, and this also includes research work with CSIRO and various universities. In terms of those working in the private sector, a number of graduates end up working with environmental consulting firms, being engaged in environmental impact statements, environmental audit processes, working with mining companies in environmental management, rehabilitation, property developers, tourism operators, and in fact I do a lot of work, for example, in the food and beverage sector, and a lot of these companies now are also offering are employing sustainability officers to look at the sustainability of their broader operations. A number of graduates also work in the non-government sector, working for the Taronga Foundation, the Australian Conservation Foundation, WWF, etc., engaging with public debates over use of resources and how to deal with environmental problems. A number of graduates also end up working with international organisations. I know within the closely aligned geography major at Sydney, we have a very strong international orientation, and so sometimes graduates will end up working for DFAT, our overseas development assistance programs, or for international organisations like the World Bank, FAO. And just quickly, there are also a number of opportunities for continuing into postgraduate study in environmental studies and science at the University of Sydney. We have a postgraduate coursework program in environmental science and law, as well as opportunities for continuing to develop research skills in Masters of Science program and in a PhD program. Okay, we'll quickly talk about some of the research being done currently at the university in relation to environmental studies. We have an ongoing research program looking into sustainable agricultural programs with a particularly strong interest in Southeast Asia. And a key area of development here is the way that various certification programs and schemes, such as Rainforest Alliance, which is aligned to the Sustainable Agricultural Network, how using these sorts of certification programs can induce positive change towards more sustainable agricultural production systems, such as the integrated coffee and pepper production seen here across Southeast Asia and India. Secondly, we're doing research which is exploring the underlying drivers of deforestation in many tropical countries. What causes an individual living in a forest margin in somewhere like Sumatra to make the decision to clear primary forest and plant cocoa, coffee, palm oil, rubber, etc. And what can be done to address deforestation by perhaps altering the incentive structures for those at the forest frontier. We also do research into sustainability in urban planning, how to make our cities more livable, more environmentally sound places to live. Work along the Cooks River, for example, here in Sydney. How we can shift to more sustainable transport systems, integrating in parks and treescape within our cities. Developing water-sensitive urban design so that rainwater runoff is reintegrated into and reused within the existing ecosystems. We also do research in responses to climate change and sea level rise. Right across the Pacific, there are various concerns, as you'd be aware, that climate change is likely to severely impact some of these low-lying nations. Our research at the moment is looking into not just what those impacts might be, but also what kinds of responses are being put into place now and what the impacts of those responses might be in an attempt to adapt to climate change and sea level rise. We also do various research into the management of wildlife and national parks here in Australia, how we can conserve the unique wildlife of Australia and what sort of conservation strategies might be appropriate in that context. So, for any of you looking for more information, you can obviously look at the Science Faculty website and the Environmental Studies program, where more information is also found on the School of Geosciences website. So, thank you very much for coming along, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, I guess, my thoughts on the Environmental Studies major here. For those of you thinking about enrolling for 2018, yeah, don't forget that the preference is open for UAC or close on Friday, 29th of September. So thank you once again.